Hello everybody, and I'm sorry I can't be there with you personally today. You can see I'm here in Bangkok. I tried to get you a nice view, but the sun is coming just at a horrible angle that either you can see me in this very mysterious half face and half of the background, or else I cannot see the screen. But we try to do the best of it. Anyway, it's very much my pleasure to be with you here today. Those of you who saw my presentation about a year and a half ago, I'm doing the same themes, same stuff, but hopefully a lot of updated stories and versions and statistics and examples for you. I recognize today you're in the Netherlands, and this is people from around the world. So I am strongly focusing on needs of the emerging world. But I will also occasionally take stuff that's relevant to the rich world, Europe and North America and rich parts of Asia, with relevance to that. And so I am just a Mr. Mobile guy. I know nothing about religion other than I'm a Lutheran myself. And so this is just what a mobile guy would be telling you about my technology and how you can use it within your sphere. So let's have a look at my first slide, our slide number 2. I'm going into the numbers. So we are now at this point. Last year, 2014, was the first time when any technology on the planet had more active users than the total population. So this is as a measurement of mobile accounts. This is not actual users, but there are now 7.3 billion human beings on the planet and 7.4 billion active mobile phone accounts. That is not actual mobile phones in use. That is not actual human beings using those accounts. We know in Europe, Dutch people know very well that all adults, employed adults, carry 2 phones, 2 accounts. This is starting to become true in America as well. This idea was first discovered in Finland, but in very many parts of the emerging world, it might be one person with 1 phone and 3 accounts, where they swap the SIM card between the different phone accounts. But you see on this graph, you look at the green line, FM radio. That's the second most used technology on the planet. By the end of next year, there'll be twice as many active mobile users as total FM radios on the planet. Look at internet, the pink line. The internet is now at 3 billion users. My statistic is slightly old here, 2.7, but it's now at 3 billion users. So it's a long distance down from mobile. So going to the next slide, we had numbers right from the end of last year from the GSMA, which counted that the total worldwide use of internet users on mobile is now at 2.2 billion people. So apart from us using the mobile phone as a voice device and text messaging device, the actual internet users is 2.2 billion people on a mobile phone. Again, in Europe and North America, most of us will have a tablet, a laptop, a desktop, computer at work, a computer at home. So even though we use the mobile phone, go to Facebook, whatever on the mobile phone, we also use the PC. So out of the total 3 billion users in the world, maybe 1.5 billion have a personal computer to access the internet, but more people, 2.2 billion, have a mobile phone. And obviously, there's a large part of people who use both, but increasingly, there's almost 1.5 billion people who use only mobile as their way to access the internet. And this is a huge change for the internet people. They are adjusting to this situation. There's this discussion about, is a tablet a mobile or is it something else? So my dear friend here, I'm with Gary Schwartz. Gary's the handsome guy. I'm the guy who looks like James Bond. So Gary on the left. Gary wrote in his book, Fast Shopper, Slow Store, excellent book, by the way. He wrote that tablets immobilize people. Tablets immobilize people. So tablet inherently is not mobile. A tablet is an ultra-portable computer. The moment you start using your tablet, you stop You sit down, you want to be at Starbucks, you get a Wi-Fi connection, you have to use it two-handedly. It is not a mobile device. Whereas our mobile phone, we can easily be walking, crashing into traffic signs, having our accidents, in traffic and so forth, everywhere around. We can easily use the mobile phone single-handedly. Even many touchscreen phones can be used single-handedly, and we can easily do that while walking, while doing other things, and so forth. So a mobile phone, a smartphone, is a mobile, whereas a tablet is only an ultra-portable, or for me to paraphrase Gary, as I say on the bottom of the slide, a tablet is in fact an anti-mobile. So we see very much of the recent mobile behavior statistics, especially statistics about apps, smartphone apps, that also cover tablets. But you recognize tablet population is tiny compared to mobile phones. Very, very many more mobile phones sell today and smartphones sell today than tablets. Tablet growth has roughly stalled. It's going to be flat, whereas mobile phone growth increases. And we get to this next issue. Tablets, the next slide, tablets already are 1 in 4 of all phablets, large screen smartphones, are eating into the opportunity of tablets. So these are mobile phones like the new iPhone 6 and 6 Plus, which have screens larger than 5 inches. By this year, more phablets will be sold in 2015 than total tablets. So here is the future really, where we are looking at even that the tablet opportunity. It will be superseded by smartphones, and specifically large screen smartphones, phablets. So here's my first suggestion for you. When you are considering your ministries anywhere around the world, but especially always in the emerging world, provide your church leaders with smartphones, large screen smartphones, not an iPhone, not a BlackBerry, not Windows. Make them Android-based, large screen smartphones. Why do you want to have a large screen? A large screen phablet makes it easy for the minister to show to a couple of the people in the congregation small videos, small texts, excerpts from the Bible, whatever, lyrics from the hymn we're singing or whatever, can be shown to a couple of people rather conveniently who are next to you, if it's a phablet-sized screen. For this, you want to provide tons of video religious content. Video plays very well on phablet-sized screens for small audiences. And you have to have, obviously large screen means that this cannot be a BlackBerry. And you have to have 2 functionalities wherever you are around the world. Your minister has to have a phone which has a micro SD card, memory card slot. And it has to have Bluetooth. Why? Because this is how people share content who don't have a data plan. Even in America, even in Holland, even in England, about 1/4 of the population do not have a smartphone and do not have a data plan. They don't want to take the heavy expenses of starting to download content through the internet, through some cloud memory service. They want to share content like most of us do, via Bluetooth or via micro SD card. That's why you have to make sure that the phone has to have these 2 things. Therefore, it cannot be an iPhone. And why Android? Because most practical apps and various kind of content is now always done Android first. And nobody does iPhone first anymore, except some people still in America. But the rest of the world is already gone Android first when it comes to any kind of apps. So this doesn't have to be a Samsung Galaxy S6, which actually doesn't have a micro SD card, so it's not good anyway. But it doesn't have to be a Sony Xperia. It doesn't have to be an LG, G4. You can have a mid-price Android phablet phone, which costs about 200, 300 euros, about $250, $350 without contract. These kind of phones are perfect for your ministries, the leaders, to use as their digital tool to connect with their parishes, with their congregations, and to share content. Because you will be having and collecting a lot of content on that phone, and it should then be shared with the congregation and with other fellow leaders. Well, looking at the statistics, we are at the point at the end of the global smartphone migration. This is new sales of smartphones. So 2014 was the year when 2/3 of all new phones sold on the planet were smartphones. I have predicted we are now at the point, the numbers are very strongly supporting this will happen. 2019, 5 years from now, 4 years from now, 2019 will be the first year when no more dumb phones, basic phones, feature phones are sold around the planet, and all phones, more than 99% of all new phones sold, will be smartphones. So 2019, only 4 years from now, that is the year when all new phones sold on the planet, the cheapest phones included, will all be smartphones. After that, it will still be many years that the old phone population of the old Nokias and the old Samsungs and the old simple Huawei's and whatever, simple phones, Motorola's, those will still hang around and will be used. And it will take a while, 3-4 years after that, before the last feature phones, dumb phones, will be out from the markets. Longest will take Africa. But still, we are at the point where we can already see on the horizon the date when there will be no more, where every phone sold will be a smartphone. And I'm predicting that date will be 2019. It might be as early as 2018. This is really moving fast. I showed this slide last time, and I want to just come back to it to show you the huge discrepancy around the world. Recognize this statistic is now a year old, but nonetheless, 2013, Nielsen compared several different countries around the world for their smartphone migration rate. So these are rather close to what the world looks like today. We're a little bit, you can add like 5%, maybe 10% to these numbers to get to the world. But yes, Hong Kong and Singapore are well past 90% on the left side of the slide. When you're looking at, Thailand, it's about 50%, a little bit past. We're looking on the right-hand slides of USA is about 65%. Britain is almost 80%, 75, 80%. So Holland is at about the same rate. Germany is a little bit behind that, as is France. But when you're looking at the middle of the slide, you're seeing India, Indonesia, Philippines. Africa would be almost the same as India. So this kind of levels, Latin America will be somewhere between Indonesia and Thailand on this graph. So that is that the vast majority of the emerging world is still the dark part, non-smartphones. When people have mobile phones, they are basic phones, feature phones. And even in our congregations in the rich world, there's still a sizable part of the total population, the total audience, who do not own a smartphone. So I showed you last time this simple logic, looking at it from the American numbers back then, so that most of the experts like to talk about apps for smartphones. That is completely useless for us. I would say it's spectacularly unchristian thing to do is to offer services only for the rich elites. So anyone who's not fortunate to afford a Samsung Galaxy or an iPhone or a premium smartphone, why would we not deal with them? So of course, we follow the guideline from Kraft Foods, Mondelez, where say that leave no phone behind. Make sure that whatever services you offer, whatever you provide, always start with those that reach the whole congregation. After that, if you want to do premium stuff, we can do that in addition to that. But let me now show you a little update on where we are going with the smartphone numbers. I made this prediction back in 2010. I actually showed it in Holland that year, I think, where I was talking about Moore's Law, and I was showing what will happen to the price of a super phone. So this is 2010, the best phones on the planet. Apple had just come out with the iPhone 4. Nokia had the N8, the Samsung Galaxy, the BlackBerry Bold. If you took the rough amalgamation of those specifications in the summer of 2010, if you took an unsubsidized price of about $600 US, about 500 euros at that time, you got a smartphone which had a 3.5-inch touchscreen, had 3G, Wi-Fi, GPS, had an 8-megapixel camera, and a flash. That was considered a super phone 5 years ago. Today, obviously, these are mid-phone specs. But in 2010, this was the most amazing super technology, changing the world, computer in your pocket, the everything device in your pocket. I applied Moore's law to these numbers, and I calculated how long will it take, what happens if we apply Moore's law for 10 years. And you can see that when you take the fourth bullet point here, that, I'm sorry, the last bullet point, the blue part on the bottom, that by the summer of 2019, according to Moore's law, it should be possible to replicate the exact specifics of that iPhone 4. And it should be able to be manufactured and sold for $10 US, including profit. The phone that cost $600. 10 years later, according to Moore's law, we should be able to sell that same device, equivalent device. Apple will not give us a $10 iPhone, but someone else in China can take all those specs, give us a Wi-Fi, 3G, touchscreen, GPS smartphone running on Android that has an 8-megapixel camera and flash, and sell it for $10. At that point, obviously, there is no margin to sell a basic feature phone that doesn't do all this and try to sell that for $5. But this was an interesting exercise in terms of the mathematics 5 years ago. What we can now do, you see the part in red. This prediction has milestones. The prediction said, I should be able to discover somewhere around the world, just now in the winter of 2014, a smartphone on these exact specs that only costs $75. Can we find a 3.5-inch touchscreen smartphone, 3G, Wi-Fi, GPS, 8-megapixel camera, and flash for $75 somewhere around the world? You know we can. I went to India. There is the Eyeball Tiger. The Tiger 4 Plus has a 4-inch touchscreen. It's better than this iPhone 4. Has 3G, Wi-Fi, GPS, and 8-megapixel camera and flash. And did it cost $75 in December? It cost 4,600 Indian rupee, which is only $72. 72, not 75. We are ahead of this theory. So it's not certain we will get to the $10 smartphone with all these specs by 2019, but we will definitely have at least basic smartphones that cost $10 that will be sold 5 years from now. And so far, halfway through this theory, Moore's law holds true. We might actually get to this point. And this is very promising if we are looking at the digital divide. And we are looking at poor people and their access to digital technology. And we are looking at your people joining your churches and you want to communicate with them. The obvious technology we're going to be doing this in the near future will be smartphones. Today it is basic phones. In the near future, obviously it will be smartphones. So here's one of my suggestions I had last time. I just want to remind you, because almost everyone who joins your churches everywhere on the planet will have a mobile phone, but there are, I don't remember, was it 800 million people on the planet who live in areas where they don't have reliable electricity? So put charging stations in your churches. Let people connect and recharge their phones while they come to service. This is a good way to give issues that your congregations, your members will need anyway, and it's a good way for them to remember to come to church, and while they are at church to then to make sure that they connect their phones and remain powered. Also, for your ministers, then provide them with, and all of the volunteers working with you who travel into the villages and around talking about religion, give them battery-powered pocket rechargers for mobile phones. So whenever they visit someone's home who doesn't have electricity, who has a phone, an old Nokia, which is now down on, one bar left, and the guy's mostly keeping it off, and then occasionally turns it on, and then 2 days from now he goes visits his brother, where he will then recharge the phone in his brother's house. Bring the battery charger with you, and let the people, while we're talking about religion, have their phones be recharged. So these are simple devices. These are available everywhere in the emerging world. We have plenty of these rather large, pocket-sized, rechargeable extra batteries. Make sure you provide your ministers with these. They're very powerful ways to let the people have their R&R, their redemption, and their recharging. Okay, now I like to talk about statistics and of the consumer and mobile. So we have several nice statistics that came out that we have updated and just changed this industry even more. In Britain, we have the latest number from Techmark last year that reported the average smartphone user looks at their mobile phone 221 times per day. Some of you who have been looking at the mobile tech numbers have memorized that number 150 times per day. That's the old number that came from like 4 continents and several places, 150 times per day. No, that's an old number. Now you need to memorize 221. The average smartphone person looks at their mobile phone 221 times per day. They go to their pocket every 4 minutes and 18 seconds of every waking hour. In this short presentation I have for you, you are actually going to look at your mobile phone 9 times. That's how addicted we are. So yes, just recognize the kind of change of behavior we have. Also from Britain, we have Deloitte's numbers from just January of this year. I want you to look at the top 3 items. 94% of all British consumers, this is not just smartphone users, all consumers use some kind of messaging on their mobile phone. 85% of the total users use SMS text messaging. Some of them have moved to other messaging platforms and so forth. But look at the third one, only 76% use voice calls. Those of you who have not heard me before or have not read my stuff before, this is a very important global trend. The primary use of the mobile phone is not voice calls. The primary use of a mobile phone is SMS text messaging. The primary use of a mobile phone, it's a messaging device. It is no longer a voice call, a phone that we bring to our ear and we listen to the phone. It is a data device, a messaging device. Now, next slide, I'm showing US smartphone users, and notice the same thing. Texting, SMS text messaging use by 97% of American smartphone users. Voice calls comes in second most, that 92% of users use voice calls. So text messaging everywhere around the world, same trend. Text messaging comes first, voice call comes a distant second. Notice on this statistic, this is a very extensive study Pew did over 1 week when they asked 2 surveys per day from this panel of 1,600 people to really find deep data of what they use. Text messaging is not only used by most people, text messaging is also the service they use more times per day than anything else on the mobile phone. Voice call is used by second most people, but the people using it don't use it often. It became only the fourth most used service. So even though internet has less users in America on mobile and email has less users than voice calls, the users use it more per day. They use internet more than voice calls and emails more than voice calls. So recognize this is no longer the voice device. It's a messaging device. So emerging world statistics. Pew had a wonderful study last year. Please study it, download it. Excellent free stuff. They looked at 32 countries only in the emerging world. They found that phone ownership, but look at the second bullet point here. Adults using a mobile phone, 76%. use text messaging. Again, that it's just global trends. So when on the next slide on South Africa, these are South Africa numbers from 2014. South Africa is a good bellwether country, which sits right at the middle of the planetary technology use. So they are a rich part of the emerging world. So if you want to take a planetary average, South Africa is very close to that planetary average. So it's very, very close to what are the poorer, less developed parts of Europe, looking at, let's say, Greece, looking at Belgium, sorry, Belgians next door, looking at Canada, they will have very similar numbers to these, and looking at the rich parts of the emerging world. When we're looking at Malaysia, we're looking at Indonesia, looking at Colombia, looking at China, the numbers will be very close to what South Africa is. And then when you get very poor countries, they will be lower than these. When we get very rich countries, Scandinavia, etc., or Japan, we get higher numbers than these. But this is a good snapshot to look at the world average. Another interesting country is, I'm sorry, and then on New Zealand very specifically, we had this, which I think is an amazing change in human behavior finding. This is from 2012. Vodafone in New Zealand measured usage of mobile phones, and they found a very interesting number, the part I have in red, that more than 1 in 3 mobile phone users, this is not just smartphone users, this is not just young people, but across the whole population, more than 1 in 3 had used the mobile phone as a kind of a magical truth device in the pocket to settle an argument or settle a bet. So the truth is in the pocket. This changes our relationship with information and with data and with knowledge. If we are not sure, we just Google it. We go to our pocket and we find it. I really love finding this information back in 2012, and I had been looking forward to someone else doing the same study somewhere else, and we just have absolutely fresh numbers from Pew just now, 2 weeks ago. Pew said that in America, among smartphone owners, 53% have settled an argument by checking it in their mobile phone. When we multiply that across the total smartphone ownership, I think it comes up to 36% of all Americans. So it's almost identical statistic as New Zealand. So this is going to be all around the world. This is not just the geeks. This is not just young people. This is not just the very digitally sophisticated users. This is your uncle. This is your brother. This is your sister. This is your mom. This is your grandma. This is becoming totally common behavior when 1 in 3 humans has already done it. By the end of this decade, it will be 4 people out of 5. When they've had an argument, they will just settle it by going to their pocket. By the way, I am sweating really heavily because the sun. Which way are we? So the sun is really coming heavy from the side, and so I don't know if you can see me sweating. But I just nice little Bangkok view from. They gave me a nice high floor on this hotel, so just wanted to share that. Anyway. It's okay. Looking at mobile as a mass media. So I was the first one to argue this more than a decade ago. Now almost every one of the tech specialists have agreed that mobile is different from the internet. That we cannot do the same page on the internet and on mobile. We have to mobile optimize. This is what Google teaches us. This is what Yahoo teaches us, what Facebook does, what Twitter does. Everyone does this now. We have to mobile optimize because mobile is different from the PC-based internet. There's a Wikipedia page. You can read about it. You don't need to buy my book. But the big value that came out of this research in why is mobile different is this point. I have been arguing that mobile has unique benefits. Mobile has unique benefits that you cannot do in print, you cannot do on television, cannot do on radio, you cannot do on cinema, you cannot do on DVDs, you cannot do on the internet. Mobile has unique benefits as a mass media. Originally, when I wrote my book about this, I only had 4 unique benefits. Now we have expanded this to 9. So this is just your cheat list, your checklist reminder. If you use these kind of functions, you can discover things that seem magical, that were not possible before in a printed pamphlet that we can share with the people of our religion, or we cannot do on an internet website, or we cannot record on a CD or DVD and share with our members and so forth. So 9 unique abilities. I'm not going to discuss these more, but just a nice little reminder for you that this is the real power of that lesson of the 7th mass media. But I want to go back to the basics. There is still so much that we can do, very much from the very simple stuff like voice calls, like text messaging. In South Africa, Vodacom invented this service called Please Call Me. Please Call Me is an SMS text message which is free for any user. They can send a Please Call Me message to any one of their friends, anyone they know. The person receives a call saying this person would like to have a call from you. It is sponsored by advertising. And of course, if I'm the rich person in a city and my poor sister is working at the farm, household farm in the village, and she wants me to call her, of course I call her. Maybe she has a problem, mother had a heart attack, we need to get a doctor for her, whatever is the situation, and so forth. So the interesting thing is when you look at the last bullet point on the bottom of the slide, 87%, 5 out of 6 South Africans have sent a please call me message to someone, and 100% of South Africans have already received a please call me message request. Now, very basic kind of services that work on voice, that work on SMS, that help connect everyone, that everyone can use, even if your voice balance is down to 0 or almost 0. Look what Wikipedia is doing in Kenya. They're doing this with SMS and something called USSD. Some of you in the audience know what USSD is. I would guess that many of you do not know what USSD is. Every mobile phone has USSD functionality. It is those cryptic codes that if you type *42# and then press the green button, suddenly your phone goes and detects from the network how much is your balance on your account and things like that. So these are strange cryptic codes that are built into the system. It's called unstructured supplementary service data, part of the basic functionality of the network. In most of the advanced countries, the network operators never bothered to develop a media platform on this very basic and limited data ability. But in Africa, in parts of Latin America, parts of Asia, USSD is very widely used. So in Kenya, for example, Wikipedia is via USSD. What you do is you can take any phone, you don't have to have a smartphone, you don't have to have an internet connection. Any basic 10-year-old Nokia, and you type into the mobile phone keypad *515# and hit the green key, the calling button. You receive a menu, highline menu of Wikipedia. And on that menu, using USSD, you navigate the menu to the Wikipedia page you want, click on the page, and after a moment, you receive the first paragraph of the Wikipedia page via an SMS or a series of SMS. They give the first paragraph of Wikipedia totally free. So we navigated through USSD. The service is delivered via SMS. After that, if you want more information, there's a click to link, click more, then you're paying regular SMS fees to get more pages from Wikipedia, more paragraphs from Wikipedia via SMS. In Kenya, 118,000 users in the first 6 months. researched Wikipedia 660,000 times. Most of these people had never used the internet before, had never seen Wikipedia before. This is their very first connection across the digital divide. Imagine the power, how much a farmer who has a sick cow and needs to know what's going on with the cow, and he can suddenly access Wikipedia and part of it for free, the early parts for free. So this is now, they're expanding this all through Africa and parts of Asia and so forth. But the kind of things that we can do on the mobile phone are truly magical at very basic levels of the technology. We don't have to have an augmented reality virtual penguin in Japan, walking, waddling on the street and guiding us, kids following them on the streets. We can do very basic stuff and deliver huge benefits to people. But when we are starting from SMS, always remember MMS works everywhere where SMS works, but MMS is the super MMS. MMS does everything that you wanted SMS to be. If you think 160 characters is too short, use MMS. If you want to put a picture, use MMS. You want to use a sound, use MMS. You want to use a video clip, use MMS. You want to send a coupon, a QR code, a URL, a click to link, or whatever, MMS, 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 MMS. The beauty of MMS is that any user who uses MMS, they think they are receiving an SMS with a picture. They don't know they're using MMS. They just, I didn't know that SMS can do this, but that's pretty nice. Compare these two pictures on the screen. They are genuine Southwest messaging. For those people who signed up for the SMS version, they get the one on the left. The ones who are using the MMS version, they get the one on the right. Obviously, this boarding pass with my seat number, with the QR code, is much more compelling with the Southwest branding and so forth, all done on MMS rather than SMS. Works everywhere on the planet and so forth. Are there any users? Well, here we are. The world's second most used digital platform is not the internet after SMS. It's not Facebook, it's not WhatsApp, it's MMS. Most people do not use a lot of MMSs. They might only send one or two a month, but MMS has 4 billion active users on the planet. The second most used data platform on the planet. Now, for us, I wanted to take this, as I think many of you might feel frustrated and worried about mobile. So I wanted to take this Forrester study of marketing professionals from last October. They are clueless, they are behind on mobile, and they know it. Look at these things. 42% work in companies so new to mobile, they don't even have a mobile strategy yet. Or it's so new that the mobile strategy is less than a year old. Look at the fifth bullet point. 41% don't even know their customers' attitudes to the use of mobile. Do their customers want to engage with mobile or not, etc. So don't worry about you feeling that you're left behind on this technology, or that you're not caught up. This is a universal thing, totally universal. Even marketing professionals, they've had so many things coming at them from social media and internet and gamification and all kind of things. And mobile has been there with all the apps and the augmented reality and whatnot, QR codes and so forth, that they just have become confused and didn't know. Notice the second to last bullet point. Forrester is critical of marketers focusing on wrong tools like apps. And they say you have to start with SMS and the mobile web. And the last bullet point, responsive design is used as a substitute for understanding the full power of mobile. What is the full power of mobile? I already told you the 9 unique abilities of mobile. So just memorize that slide, understand those issues, and you can use the full power of mobile. Okay, so a little suggestion for you as a mobile ministry toolkit. Your communication always starts with SMS. Then you add voice calls. Remember that you can have recordings. People can call in and listen to recording. Add MMS. In Africa, parts of the world where it is practical to use as a media, use USSD. This is not America, this is not Europe. not Japan, this is not Australia. In Europe, USA, rich parts of the world use the mobile web, HTML web. Only when those points are covered do you start to add apps, videos, QR code, augmented reality, all the other funky stuff. And then for those, all of you in this room and all of your digital geeks who might want to understand mobile for more, go to lulu.com, download the free PDF file of my book, The Insider Guide to Mobile. It's formatted for the small screen, easy to read, and you can have, read the basics, the statistics and stuff like that. What's the difference between SMS and MMS and blah, blah, blah. All of that is in this. It's written for as the basic tool that you can have on your phone, smartphone all the time, and you can have this kind of stuff with you. Okay, now, a little bit on interesting stuff that's happening in mobile. Did you notice this? Dubai, in December, became the first country to issue driver's licenses on mobile phones. Or if we go north from Netherlands, did you notice this? Estonia last year became the first country where you could vote by mobile phone. England is going to have its elections in just a couple of months. Americans are going to have their elections next year. Wouldn't this be wonderful in every country if we could vote by mobile phone? Okay. So what can we do when we collect this kind of information, this kind of data and the power on the mobile phone? I had this absolutely wonderful, wonderful service I saw in Nepal in December. It's called Riti Rivaj. It is a system where communities use camera phones, pictures, and videos to collect cultures. Why? Nepal, a relatively small country in Asia, has 70 separate languages, not dialects. These are languages as different as Dutch is from French, as French is from German, and German is from English, and English is from Swedish. Speaking one language, you do not understand the next guy. Okay? 70 separate language groups in a tiny country called Nepal because of the crazy mountains. So, the villages are so difficult to get to that each one of them develop their own cultures and their own languages. Now, as people are growing old, the young people migrate to the cities to get to work. They are forgetting their culture and they are losing their culture. So this service allows people to collect with pictures, with videos, with text, cooking recipes, dress codes, things like this to help preserve. How do we celebrate birthdays, etc.? Oops, are we running out of time? Hey, I see, yes. Anyway, on this, let me give a summary on this. So my suggestion for you, in missionary work, where you are in areas of obscure languages, use the camera and the video on the minister's smartphone to capture local language speakers who understand English, doing impromptu translations of the verses in the Bible, or whatever language the local missionaries are working in, French or Spanish or whatever. So do the translations into their own language. Use the minimum data resolution for these videos. You'll be tempted to shoot it at maximum resolution. No, use it as the minimum resolution. Why? The minister will save these short video clips on his phone by Bible passage, name, and number, and then share with the congregation. Very many of these people are religious. They do not understand English or whatever the language of the missionary is. They want to talk with their family, their others, share the religious issues in their own language. Now, these are not official translations, but they're citizen translations that we can do while we're asking people, sharing parts of the Bible, and then we record them and they become the celebrities who are doing that short passage in their own language, and we can share them. So again, this is why you want Bluetooth, why you want micro SD cards, and make sure you record it at the lowest resolution so that when people save these files on their cheap phones, they don't consume much memory. Otherwise, they start to delete them. Do not record these at 4K or something like that. Okay, so there's plenty more in the back. Please take a look at these slides. So mobile is very, very measurable. We have cool things happening with Starbucks and Uber. There's a wonderful Obama campaign that used SMS to engage with voters. I have a suggestion how you can use that directly with your organizers of your groups, as well as reminders when we have a church service coming on Sunday. Send SMSs 2 hours before it starts. And I always like to end with magic. In England, if any of you who are visiting in Europe and you happen to do a London trip, go visit these statues. These statues now talk. You can use your mobile phone to listen to Sherlock Holmes talk to you and so forth. So that's what I had prepared for you. Sorry, I ran a little bit over, but I hope we have a moment of time with some questions. And for our Dutch people in the audience, dank je wel. On USSD, excellent question. This is very true. You have to work with the operators, all of the operators in that given country. So that's why it is a totally useless task for you to even approach, the German government or Canadian, operator or any country which doesn't use USSD already as a media channel. They're not going to want to bother to do this. But if you are in countries where they are, and this is all of Africa, this is definitely India, very large parts of the less affluent parts of Asia and parts of Latin America, then USSD is available, and operators will be very positive to reacting to non-profit organizations. Obviously, in very many areas, the religion issue is very positive, but we will have, like I'm in Bangkok, which is Buddhist area. So, I mean, that if you're bringing in a rebel religion from some other denomination, other type of religion, the local operator might not be very supportive. But if that country is already in roughly the same religion thinking as you are, so bringing Muslim Aryans to Muslim related religious things to North Africa, for example, then they would be very willing to work with a non-profit unit and allow, because USSD is limited. So because there is a limit to USSD, they will be very cautious to allocate these digit and number codes. But you might very well get one for that, and then to be able to build on that. Okay, then we had second question. SMS and literacy. Oh, very good. Yes. SMS, I think, for total active users of mobile messaging, I think we have hit exactly the limits of literacy now. Whether it is still active users of SMS, some of the very premium heavy users, Netherlands is the prime example of this, where it happened first, but people are switching to WhatsApp for most of their messaging. They don't quit using SMS, but most of their messaging they put on premium messaging platforms, or specialized instant messaging platforms. When we take all mobile messaging, SMS, MMS, email, WhatsApp, BlackBerry Messenger, iMessage, all of these combined, their total user number, we are now almost exactly at the limits of literacy. The last mobile phone owners who really are not using SMS are now at the point of not being literate. I was taught about this when I was in Nigeria last year. A lady from Ghana was telling me that, Tommy, in Ghana, in the villages, ladies don't even understand numeracy. If you tell them press 4-2 on an IVR system, they don't know what 4 and 2 is on the keyboard. It's not just that they're illiterate, they don't even know numbers, and they have memorized a pattern to call their sister or their brother, or it's been memorized onto the phone. So it's the fourth click on the phone is your brother, and the fifth click is your mother, and so forth. But they don't know what number 3 looks like or number 5 looks like. So yes, we are at this point. Mobile phones can be helped to bridge illiteracy. We have lots of places where mobile phones are used to augment teaching. Excellent example from Pakistan, for example, where illiterate people are much more women than men. And there's an age gap. So it's a very big stigma issue where older women in Pakistan villages are illiterate. Their daughters are literate. Their husbands are literate. Their sons are literate. But mother or aunt or grandmother doesn't know how to read. So now they are using simple lessons with SMS to let them learn, practice at their own stage. Their sister, their daughter, their granddaughter can help grandma learn to read with these little lessons and learn the little characters, Pashtun or whatever the local language is, and learn how it spells and slowly learn to read and write. The beauty is the mobile phone is always with us. If we do it with SMS, they save it onto the phone and they can revisit and practice and revisit and practice and take the lesson again and again. And these lessons were specifically built in Pakistan, were specifically built that you don't learn alone, you learn with a mentor. So your daughter or your son or your husband or your brother who is literate can help you, the illiterate one, slowly learn to join the literate population. We can use it, but it is a very slow process. And obviously, I think it was it 700, 800 million people, adults, 700 million, I think it was, adults on the planet who are still illiterate. So we have a long way to go. Not even all children yet get to go to school, like we saw in Nigeria. Oh my God, that places where they don't want girls to be taught. And I feel horrible about that. Okay, what was the next question? Smartwatches, wonderful, wonderful question on smartwatches. The industry is split. Some people think that smartwatches will be big, will be part of the wearables revolution, and Apple will drive a radical revolution in this space. I am on the opposite side. So we definitely do not have the facts yet. This is opinion only. But I am of the side who think that a smartwatch on our phone provides no practical, compelling evidence above what we already get from the mobile phone. We're not going to do Dick Tracy phone calls. The screen is much too small for us to do touchscreen kind of texting, Facebook, Twitter, all this. Not going to happen. So we're not going to replace our mobile phone and only use the smartwatch. Rather, the smartwatch will be an additional digital gadget. As an additional digital gadget, it immediately suffers all the kind of problems that we see with tablets, that we see with laptops, that we see with PlayStation portables, we see with digital cameras, we see with standalone GPS players. All of these, the primary device we use is the mobile phone, even if it is not optimized for that use. Because we cannot live without the mobile phone, we make it our primary center of whatever we do. And then if we're rich enough and we like the gadget, we buy the tablet, we buy the laptop, we buy the PlayStation, we buy the smartwatch, we buy the Google Glass or whatever it is, the additional gadget. So I do believe in the long run, wearables will be big. But I think that the smartwatch metaphor, as it currently exists, is very poor. It works for specialized areas like healthcare, like fitness, maybe a few other areas, but those are so tiny compared to smartphones that the cost economics do not work. I believe Apple Watch will be seen as one of Apple's rare failures, like the Newton PDA was a failure by Apple. I think the Apple Watch 3, 4, 5 years from now will be discontinued, will be ended quietly, as a failure, as an experiment that didn't quite work, was a little too much ahead of its time, and Apple will just quietly shut it down. I think at the moment we are having a lot of hype about smartwatches, but their real potential is not big. Look at the numbers. If we truly do get big numbers, Apple will start publishing them. For the numbers to be big, smartwatch sales by Apple have to reach several tens of millions of units per year. If Apple Watch is a success, it has to have several versions updated every year. And if the smartwatch opportunity is an economic success, we will get huge amounts of copycats from Samsung, from LG, from Huawei, from Lenovo, from all the other guys will do lots of smartwatches. If it turns out to be hype and not a big opportunity, very soon most people will stop updating their versions. They will no more release new versions, and this will die out in 2 or 3 years. And then the last few Apple updates come out, and then they quietly close it down. I think there is no compelling reason why I would replace the phone and only use a device on my wrist. This is not a smartwatch. I would use a smartwatch on the wrist, but monitor that space. I've been wrong many times. So if the numbers start growing, I will be on my blog saying, guys, I was wrong. Look what's happening with Apple, or look what's happening with Samsung. Now I think it will succeed. Let's see what is next you have. Do we still have time for more? Augmented reality. Oh, lovely. Yes. When I argued that mobile is the 7th mass media, different from the internet, people were always asking me, what will be the next mass media number 8? Now I am convinced it will be augmented reality. I'm actually going to be right next door in Ireland in 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now at an augmented reality conference. Anyway, augmented reality will be a big mass media. I'm projecting it to have 1 billion active paying users by year 2020. 6 years from now, augmented reality globally will have 1 billion active users. That is still tiny compared to 7 billion mobile phone users. But if you put it in context of newspapers, total planetary circulation of all daily newspapers is only 410 million. Augmented reality will be twice the size of print newspapers by year 2020. Okay, I think that we are done with time. Hey, it was my pleasure. Thank you very much.